I'm joined by a man who's probably still celebrating after that Eels victory. Goran, how you doing, mate?
Good, Phil. Good. Yeah, honestly, Easter Monday, getting the chocolates like that, the return of Mitch
Yeah.
Moses against the Tigers, far out. It was like I'm absolutely blown away by how one man, a halfback, can change an entire team like that. You know, all of a
Yeah.
sudden they appeared to be defensively stronger as well as being better organised on attack. So, yeah, he was incredible. Even though the ref tried to stitch us up at times, and there was like that square up sin bin of Luca Moretti when really what did he do? And then Isaiah Yongi goes to the bin as well for absolutely nothing.
That was crazy. That was
It
wild.
was mental,
I didn't know a player knocking on the ball results in a yellow card. But there you go. Learn something new every day, and good to see a certain referee dropped for this week. So,
well, yeah, that's right, mate. A little bit of accountability, right? Like if you make a few errors, then you get sent back down to whatever grade the drop referees go to, probably reserve grade themselves. And, you know, like Lockie Galvin, for example, he says, Benji Marshall, I don't like you as a coach. I don't think I'm going to reach my ceiling with you in charge of me. So he gets sat down as well, although he gets brought back as well.
Gets put back the week after, which is probably what's going to happen to that ref as well. So slap on the wrist. All right, back you come then. We need you. We just lost to the Eels. Please come back.
Exactly.
Very, very messy situation for the Tigers. Mitch Moses, we joked about it last week, actually. I think I mentioned it because you were backing Mitch Moses to score. And I said, you might as well back him for a 40-20. And my God, if he didn't just hit it in like 15 minutes, something ridiculous, I was like, oh, wow.
Unreal.
I really should have backed it.
It was a great pick from you, man, because look, he's got many strings to his bow, Mitch Moses, but the long kicking game is supreme, eh? So, you know, how many times have I seen it over the years where the Eels struggle to make meters coming out of their own end, and then Moses just goes long. You know, he's got the ability to kick at 50 meters on the fly. So, yeah, you should have got on that, man.
I should have. I think it was just over $4, that one. But, man, he really did put on a masterclass, and I did back the Eels, though. I followed you in.
Good man.
They were, around 215. Good to see the Eels back on board.
I think that was one of the only bets I got right out of last week, to be honest. I think I started really strong, finished strong, and it was absolute cack in between.
It's often like that, isn't it? But speaking of 40-20s, the 40-20-52, we'll recap that. You had backed the Crusaders against the Blues. They did win 25-22.
Yep.
But then you relied on your hometown club, the Tars, to beat the draw away from home. They did stuff it. They lost 28-14. But half point for you, backing the Crusaders there.
Yeah.
My 40-20 was a success, actually, for a change.
Oh,
Very
well
nice.
done.
Only Bulldogs to score 20-plus points against the Bunnies. They ended up scoring 32, and Bunnies scoring a big fat 0.
Yeah, unanswered, 32. Gosh, the Dogs are impressive, eh?
They were, you can see why they're top of the table, and defensively very astute as well, and put the game to bed. I think the Bunnies were delivering chocolate eggs or something that Good Friday, because they certainly weren't playing rugby. Back that up. The second bet was Hudson Young to score, and he actually ended up scoring twice. He's having quite the season.
Isn't he, though? That was just in time for Origin selection as well, Phil.
I know. Very excited. Time is flying by when you're starting to talk about Origin already. My goodness.
Yeah, it's like a month away.
Yeah, ridiculous. Good signs, though, for Blues supporters, I guess, when Ben Hunt is playing so terrible for the Broncos. So let's see what happens there. Reece Walsh injured. Oh, hello.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he was a non-event on Easter weekend against the Warriors, wasn't he? Look, he was injured early, and he battled on bravely. But you got to wonder, like, did he do more harm than good for the Broncos' chances in that game?
Staying on longer than he should have, probably. And then, you saw what happened. Kicked the ball dead. Luke Metcalf come in clutch after missing, I don't know, going 1 from 5, I think, before that 50-meter kick, securing the golden point win. Man, nerve-wracking stuff watching that live, but what a game.
You've got to hand it to Luke Metcalf, mate, because
you really do.
He's this, he's a young guy, and he's finding his feet in the 7 jersey. And Sean Johnson, apart from that time that he buggered off across the ditch and played for the Sharks, he's been the 7 for the Warriors, right? And on the back of, let's call him what he is, a Warriors hero, an icon, a legend. Metcalf has come in and he's had his detractors, people who have said that he's not a 7, he's a running 6. I thought he was a running 6, but he's showing week after week the confidence, the ability to guide the team around the park. And then when a moment like that occurs and you've got the winning of the game in your grasp, he happily takes it. He's showing immense bravery and courage, and Warriors fans have got to love that, man. Like their current and long-term, hopefully, fingers crossed, 7 is just owning those moments, doing it so well.
Yeah, and I think also that sort of situation where you've had a tough night off the tee as well, and then it's basically up to you to get the winner 50 meters out, to have that confidence, and your team to have that confidence in you to keep you on the tee as well, and then actually getting it over. It's great signs.
And you know, assholes will say, "Oh, it was out in front." 50 meters is a long way for a ball to travel, and in horrible conditions as well.
Horrible conditions, yeah.
Last weekend, we had basically a tornado going through Auckland. It was pissing down with rain. And in those difficult conditions, he still had the confidence to win the game. So, hats off to Luke Metcalf, eh?
Just also shows how good Adam Reynolds actually is, because he was slotting them from the line, and even the commentators were going nuts, just trying to express how tough the conditions were, and Adam Reynolds was just able to correct the ball perfectly, so it's landing straight through the middle every time. Unreal.
Yeah. I mean, he's absolute quality, and we know that. He's a proven world-class entity over many years.
Yeah. I guess the only other game there for me was the Dolphins destroying the Storm, being 16 points to 2 down, and then putting like 40 points on them unanswered.
Yeah.
Crazy game.
Absolute insanity, eh? And it just continues to show us that outside of the Bulldogs being consistent, anything is possible in the NRL this season. It's so hard to pick. And I kind of like it, but at the same time, when I'm trying to place my bets, it makes it awfully difficult to pick a winner. Yeah, exactly. But what an amazing effort from the Dolphins. Isaiah Katoa showing that he is an incredible talent as well.
Class.
Yeah, and the hammer coming alive as well. The Dolphins are a really fascinating proposition, aren't they? Because when they play in Queensland, when they play at home in Redcliffe, they're really good. They're almost unbeatable. And then they go out on the road and they stink up the joint. So that'll be their issue this weekend, because they're playing outside of Queensland, I think. They've got the Canberra Raiders. So,
Raiders are very good at home as well.
Yeah, that's right. And they're in the top 4. So, I think they might find it quite difficult, the Dolphins, to back up what was an incredible win over the Storm.
Yeah, massive. Another good win. The Panthers finally starting to show some decent attacking play as well. 40-12 over the Roosters. See how they go next week. I think we'll play this little NRL game then. Before we
tell me more.
Head into the Super Rugby.
An NRL game.
I've gone through some of the highlights, and what's happened is we've picked some of the comments, and I want you to decipher what comment relate to which game from last week. So I've got 4 here.
Yeah.
Some harder than others. I left out some very obvious ones, such as, player names in, Metcalf is the GOAT. But
that's
we'll start
way too obvious.
We'll start here. And this is most entertaining match this week for sure. Thinking of games last week.
Most entertaining. Oh, gosh. I mean, I would say that the Tigers-Eels game was the most entertaining. Maybe I just back myself and say Tigers-Eels.
I would say that too, and you are absolutely correct. Tigers v Eels. You had all the drama. You had the yellow cards. You had some footy 20s.
I mean, there were some other options.
Closest to that would be Warriors. That Golden Point Warriors.
The Warriors and the Dolphins that we talked about as well. Yes. Like there were a couple of games that were sort of like edge of your seat stuff.
Absolutely. But you're on the nose there.
Cool. One from
moving on, we'll go. Never seen any other team rely so heavily on a fullback to create tries, set them up, handle the ball, more than the halves and pretty much everyone else. Pathetic.
That's got to be Knights Sharks.
It does.
Talking about Kalen
Can't be any other team. Yeah. On the money.
It's funny, man. I was talking to Blairy on League of Our Own last week about players who were leading the competition for errors and how the Warriors should focus on Reece Walsh, who was leading the competition for errors, and Selwyn Cobbo, who was like third or something like that. He was close behind. And so, put pressure on these guys and they'll buckle. And now we're heading into a Knights game where the exact same thing is applied to the Knights, because you got Greg Marju, who's now made the third most errors in the competition on a wing, and Kalen Ponga, because he's so involved in the game and he's trying so much for this team that just can't buy a trick. He leads the competition for errors with like 17 now. So
really?
Yeah. So it's really interesting, because I think we all know how good the guy is on his day, but he's just trying so much to get them out of this hole they've dug for themselves, and the stats don't lie. He's dropping a bit of pill.
No, that is tough. I don't know where next for the Knights. They really need to start getting some points on the board. They have been very, very poor.
Not this week, though, Phil. Not this week, though.
After this week, please. Thank you. The Fletcher Sharp is looking good too, though. I quite enjoy watching him play, but there's not many positives for that team at the moment, which is good. Heading into the wires, but we don't want to jinx it. All right, next one, number 3.
Okay.
That slap was vicious.
That slap was vicious. Who got slapped?
Think about yellow cards, maybe.
Yeah. Oh, I know what you're talking about. I just can't remember the game. No, you've stumped me there, Phil. I've forgotten. Who slapped
That would be Montoya getting sent off for his little love tap over the weekend in the Bulldogs-Bunnies game. You can't slap bunnies, apparently.
The game has gone a little bit crazy, eh? Like what constitutes a sin bin is just, people from the 70s and 80s and even the 90s. Yeah.
I don't think even the commentators know what a send-off is anymore.
Mate, the officials don't know what a sin bin is. It changes from week to week and game to game. It's an absolute laughing stock. They need to figure it out. I mean, a little tap on the back of the head is not a sin bin.
Yeah. Consistency is needed for sure, but we say that every season, so I don't know if we can expect much there.
No.
Last one, your 2 from 3. 2025 has been a whole different whirlwind. Loving it.
What, is that just about one particular game?
So it's about one particular game. Well, I guess you could refer this to the season as a whole. So if you look back on last week's results.
Oh, look, I mean, the only one that I could think of that would stand out would be that Storm Dolphins result. So I'll go Storm Dolphins.
And you are on the money there.
Yeah.
I think the Storm steamrolling up to 16 points to 2 and then absolutely capitulating with Dolphins putting on 40 unanswered points is a whirlwind. And that's representative of the season we're having. So you've done very well there. 3 from 4. Good stuff.
Thanks, mate. Yeah, I'd like to thank my wife, my kids, my family, my friends, all of those people for the ability to sit down at the weekend and watch an awful lot of rugby league so I could take part in that quiz.
I threw you a curveball, so you've done well. And without the studying, 3 from 4 is world class. Well done.
Thank you. Yeah, that's the highest mark I've ever received in any test, actually, 75%. Now, you should see my marks at Edgewater College when I was younger, mate. Far out. I really battled.
You can send them in maybe next week.
Yeah. No, I'm keeping those hidden. They're never seeing the light of day.
Well, regardless of exams, we'll talk about the Super Rugby, which you love very much as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Chiefs $1.06, Force $8. Reds $1.85, Blues $1.90, Moana Pacifica $1.40, Fijian Drua $2.80, Highlanders $3.80, Crusaders $1.22, and then Brumbies $1.45 at home versus the Hurricanes $2.60. Some massive underdogs here. How the Force are at $8 after a 17-all draw with the Hurricanes, I don't understand, but they are coming up against the Chiefs. Sure. Chiefs, no D-Mac. D-Mac is injured this week. Force without Nick White, which anytime Nick White's not playing, I enjoy the game a lot more too because he's a bit of a yapper, isn't he? Must-win game for the Blues, though, if they want to even dream about that top 6 spot and having a go at the playoffs. They do have a good record at Suncorp, so that $1.90 is looking all right for me. And then some interesting games there with the Brumbies Hurricanes. Brumbies looking pretty good this season, I think. So that's probably a key fixture for me. Crusaders, they're probably the second best team in the comp right now, so probably want to run away with that. Any notes from you? Waratahs have the bye this week. Fortunately or unfortunately for yourself?
A note would be that the Hurricanes need to get a wriggle on, otherwise they're a massive chance of missing out on playoffs football altogether. In the last 5 games that they'll play, they've got 3 teams inside the top 4. It starts this weekend against the Brumbies. It's going to be a really tough road to hoe, but they get a positive result against the Brumbies, and then who knows what might happen against the Chiefs the week after. Yeah, really difficult run. And they're also in danger if they lose to the Brumbies, the teams below them might swallow them up, consume them. By the end of this weekend, they could actually be second last, which seems crazy, right? Given all of their promise and potential. So yeah, a tough game, but if they are going to be a contender, they need to win. And going back to your point about the Blues and their record in Brisbane in Queensland, they actually go really well. I think in the head-to-head battle, it's Reds 9, Blues 6. They've won 6 in Queensland against the Reds. Well, so it's a venue that, while it might be daunting to the regular individual for whatever reason, the Blues don't mind playing at Suncorp. So
I think they're. I was doing some research on that game too. They won the last 3 at Suncorp, in fact. And when you have the Blues starting to find their form, yes, I know they lost against a very good Crusaders side, but if they're creeping up behind you towards the tail end of the season and they have a must-win game this weekend, Hurricanes might be starting to panic a little bit up against a very, very good Brumbies side. We'll head to the Prem, just some highlights. Arsenal draw 2-2 with Crystal Palace.
It's over, mate. It's over.
It's well and truly over. But as a Man United fan, I'm done with the Premier League season anyway. Tottenham fall to Nottingham Forest. Love to see Nottingham Forest win. I'm enjoying their season. Man City secure a win at the death against Aston Villa. So really, with the Premier League done and dusted for us, it's really the race for the Champions League that tightens with Forest beating Spurs, and it's really 5 teams with 5 games to play. And 3 spots up for grabs there? So that's the one to look out for.
Yeah, and the Champions League, the fight for Champions League places actually dovetails quite nicely into the FA Cup semi-finals this weekend because you've got 3 of the 4 teams involved in that race for the Champions League. So you've got Manchester City, Nottingham Forest, and Aston Villa. There's 4 points that separate those teams, right? There's all these teams that are fighting for those spots. And I wonder if the FA Cup, as prestigious as it is it's become a little bit of a distraction, not an unwanted distraction, but a distraction nonetheless, given what is on the line when it comes to Champions League football. Look, I know that whatever game is in front of you, you want to go out there and win, but we all know what kind of carrot the Champions League is and the riches that can stem from that. You know, like if you ask the players, of course they're going to want to play in an FA Cup semi-final with a chance of lifting some silverware after that. But yeah, at this pointy end of the season where things aren't confirmed, distraction nonetheless.
Yeah, interesting to see where their priorities lie, with obviously a lot more value behind that Champions League. Speaking of the FA Cup then, I guess, should we dive into some little, I don't know if you have any picks or predictions for the FA Cup? That Crystal Palace Aston Villa one, for me, I just think Aston Villa are probably a little bit too good for Palace. Yes, I know they just drew with Arsenal. So maybe a little bit of a combo with over 2.5 goals there. How do you see that one playing out?
Oh, yeah, I'm probably with you on that one, Aston Villa, for me. Although,
especially with the reinforcements there with Rashford and Asensio.
Yeah.
Probably too good.
Yeah, so Villa, although watching a little bit of Palace in the draw against Arsenal, they came up with this really cool play. I don't know if you saw it, Phil, from the corner for their first goal. Eza is on the edge of the box, and the corner's just been floated across to him on the full. He's just volleyed it home with precision and power. Like they've got a bit of quality in them, you know.
Yeah, he's capable of that, isn't he?
Yeah, it's not going to be a foregone conclusion. But if you're holding a gun to my head and you're asking me who's going to win, I'll go Villa. And then in the other semi-final with Forest against City. Yeah, and again, you know, there's 1 point separating these two teams on the English Premier League ladder. You've got Chris Wood back and scoring. He scored his 19th goal of the Premier League season in that win over Tottenham. Of course, I want to back Nottingham Forest, so I will. I think it'd be really awesome to see Chris Wood not only qualify for Champions League football, but play an FA Cup final. And I think just doing a little bit of research, Nottingham Forest, as powerful as they have been in European football going back a few decades, the last time that they played in a successful final, won the FA Cup final, was 1959, and the last time they featured at all in an FA Cup final was back in 1991. So to say that Chris Wood would help Nottingham Forest get back to that arena, how amazing is that?
Surely. Yeah, it's an incredible stat there, actually. And I also look back to how ecstatic Pep was to win that Premier League game at the death against Aston Villa. And I just think maybe that is where his priority is, that Champions League spot. And Nottingham Forest are certainly capable, especially with Chris Wood up front, to score a couple goals. And Man City, throughout the season, their defence has been shaky, if not anything else. They often concede first. I just see both teams scoring here at $1.75. I would love Forest to win. FA Cup, anything can happen. Maybe a 2-1 Forest.
Yeah.
I do see both teams scoring, though.
FA Cup just reminds me of my childhood, eh? You know, it was one of those games where you'd either set an alarm to wake up and watch it live, or you'd go over to a mate's place and get in your sleeping bag and sleep in the lounge, and then the game's on, so you're sort of like looking through almost closed eyes at this screen, and eventually you fall asleep at half time, or you might wake up again and it's like it's gone to penalties, or what happened? Sort of great memories of my childhood. So it'd be I'd love it if Chris Wood could make it. I mean, we all know what kind of guy he is. He's salt of the earth, humble, grounded, and to have this kind of success at the tail end of his career, absolutely marvelous, mate. He deserves everything he gets. So it'd be great to see him in the final.
And even better if they get a win over Man City. Love seeing them lose. I think
the United fan says,
Oh, you know. Like 4 a.m. on Sunday and then 3:30 on Monday. The Nottingham one on 3:30 is going to be a bit tough for a Monday morning start, but it might just be worth the sacrifice. We'll see. I'll mull over it. All right, should we get into some betting then?
Yeah, let's do it, mate. Let's do it.
Beauty. So we'll start with that 40, 20, 50, 22. I'll be hoping for a 40-20 as good as Mitch Moses last week. So I'll start the ball rolling.
Go on.
Jackson Purdue, the Cowboys are back from their bye week. He's paying $2.45 to score any time. And then, we talked about Melbourne Storm and that result against the Dolphins. I expect them to bounce back well and truly this week against the Bunnies, with Pappenhausen and Bradley to have 2+ tries combined. That's paying $2. I don't know if you saw much of that game, but Bradley in the air on that corner over the try line is world class. He just jumps over anyone. So more cross kicks, please. And then Pappenhausen, he can create something from nothing. So surely he dots over a fractured Bunnies that just conceded 32 points. We'll see. How's your 50-22 looking?
Yeah, I like the sound of those ones, though, for your 40-20. My 50-22 is looking like this. We spoke about the Blues and the Reds earlier. I'm looking at that Blues record against the Reds in Queensland. I think there's some serious value there. So I'm backing the Blues to win at $1.90. Nice. And my second component, if you like, there's the Southern Derby, first Southern Derby of the season. It's Crusaders and it's Landers. I'm just backing Sevu Reece for an anytime try scorer, and that's $1.67. So all up, it's like $3.17 for those two.
Sevu Reece is good for a meat pie normally.
Oh, yeah.
The one time I think Charlie backed him, everyone but Sevu Reece scored, so hopefully you can turn the tide on that one.
Mate, if he doesn't score, then it's the curse of Sevu Reece.
It really is.
Don't back him. Don't back him, he won't score.
We'll move on to that lock. I've gone with the FA Cup. Both teams to score, Nottingham Forest versus Man City. I am expecting a bit of a blockbuster for that one, especially based off their last two games, and I guess Nottingham Forest season as a whole, this would be the cherry on top for them to get into the FA Cup final. So hoping for a big game there.
Yeah, cool. My lock is Bulldogs Broncos. And even though I think the Bulldogs will win this one, it's hard to go past Jesse Arthurs. He's leading try scorers. He's got 9. He'll score again in probably a losing effort. So I've got Jesse Arthurs. He's paying $2, man.
Really?
$2 for a guy who's leading the try scoring tally.
That's pretty good for Jesse Arthurs, to be honest. He's normally around the $1.85, but maybe it is just because they're up against the Bulldogs.
Possibly. And their defence is good, and they've held, a couple of teams to blot, and conceding, on average less than 10 points a game. But look, if they do concede 10 points, I'm backing Jesse Arthurs to score 4 of them. So, $2 for Jesse, lock it in.
Yeah. I mean, as much as I hate to admit it, I was even on him last week against the Warriors, and he did dot over. But also backed Lika Halasima. So I'm a little bit disappointed Halasima isn't starting this week, but that's another story. The laugh. Oh, boy. Yeah, this is quite the laugh. I hope you're ready. I've just decided seeing the Force at $8, that, and also backing this up with the Blues at $1.90.
Yeah.
I've just decided to go with every single underdog in the Super Rugby.
Oh, really?
Bet responsibly, of course.
Yes, of course.
But I do think some of those outsiders, some of those underdogs, are just a little bit too wide.
So you're going every single underdog?
Yeah.
In a multi?
So that is the Force.
You're
crazy. That is the Blues.
Phil. You're crazy,
That is the Draw. That is the Crusaders. And that is the Hurricanes.
What's this going to get you?
Oh, sorry, the Highlanders, not the Crusaders. This is $4.20, so I'm putting $1 on it.
Wow.
And we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
But if anything else, look, if I'm being honest, it probably doesn't happen. But it does make the games a little bit more interesting. And as I say, some of those underdogs are looking a little bit too wide. So let's see what happens.
Okay.
See what happens.
All right. Yeah, it's only $1 at the end of the day.
It's only $1. Yeah. I can recoup.
Yeah. My laugh, I'm sort of laughing at how these guys are the outsider, given what they did last week in the NRL. We've spoken about it already. The Dolphins putting 40 points on the Melbourne Storm and winning that game so impressively. And they are not favourites in their game against the Canberra Raiders. And even though they're playing outside of Queensland, you take that form against the Storm and you apply it to a Raiders team that is, playing very, very well. And you mentioned Hudson Young earlier, and they're well led around the field by Jamal Fogarty and all that sort of carry on. But $2.35 for the Dolphins? Yeah, I'm going to get on that. That's my laugh. Nice. I can't believe that they are they're not favourites for this one.
Yeah. I do understand, the Raiders at home, but when you put on a performance like that and you have guys like Katoa and even Nikarima having some world-class performances, why wouldn't you?
Yeah, and it's against the team. It's against the team that many are touting as title contenders, title favourites. Melbourne Storm are going to win, and they put 40 unanswered points on them. So
wild.
Getting behind the Dolphins.
Well, beautiful stuff. That's our betting done for the group chat. Thanks again for joining us this week, Goran, and to the punters, you'll be able to see those bets on the social feed. Next week, I think Charlie and I are actually heading to Brisbane. We're going to Magic Round. So catch Caxton Street for like 3 days in a row, interviewing all sorts of punters, I'm sure, and fanatic fans.
That'll be interesting.
So, it's going to be a long weekend, but a very, very fun weekend, I'm sure, and hopefully get to see the Waz in action as well.
Nice, man.
So thanks very much, and we'll see you next time.